Monday, what we did was review what a system of equations is, that it's two or more equations with two or more variables. And we talked about how a solution to the system is a point where the two lines intersect, and we drew graphs for that on Monday. Today, we won't be drawing graphs, but our answers will be the same. We're looking for a point, an XY ordered pair. And today we'll be using algebra instead of graphing. So, and the particular method we'll be using is called substitution. So if you're looking at the steps here, the very first step is that we want to solve one of the equations for either variable. So here's we're going to do two examples today, and then we're going to be done. So here's my first example on the right-hand side. The steps are on the left, the examples are on the right. And if the first step is to solve one of the equations for either variable, it means you have options. You can pick the first equation, you can solve it for y or x, and you could pick the second equation and solve it for y or x. But there is a tip that will make the rest of your math easier. Try to solve for a variable that does not have a number in front of it to begin with, so no coefficients. So for example, if I were to solve equation 1, would it be easier to solve for y or x in the top equation? Meaning, would it be easier to get y by itself or the x by itself? The y, right? Because there's no coefficient. And if I were to choose to solve the second equation, would it be easier to do x or y? X, that's right. So it doesn't matter which one we do. Would you like to do equation 1 for y or equation 2 for x? Equation 1? All right, let's do it. So we will solve equation 1 for y. So I'm just going to make a note here that that's what we're doing. Solve first equation for y. Okay, so this will be my step 1. What do I have to do to get that equation solved for y? I don't have to divide anything, so I'm just trying to get y by itself. Just have to move the 2x, exactly. So I'm going to subtract 2x to both sides. And I have y equals 7 minus 2x. Okay, so that was step 1. Read step 2 to yourself before I talk about it, please. It says substitute the expression from step 1 into the other equation. So I solved the first equation for y. So here's what I'm going to do. And I kind of want you to put your eyes on the screen for just a second. In this step, I said y equals 7 minus 2x, right? That was from equation 1. Step 2 is telling us, since we now know that y equals 7 minus 2x, I'm going to go to the other equation, the second one. Take that 7 minus 2x and put it in for that y right there. That's why this is called substitution method. Taking 7 minus 2x, and I'm substituting y in the other equation with that information. So here's how that will look. So I'm on the second equation. I have x minus 2y, but I'm replacing the y now with 7 minus 2x from the other equation. Okay. And then step 3 is to solve. So you take a minute and solve that equation. I'm going to solve it, and then we'll come back together and talk about if we got the same answers. I know, I misread my own, I can't read my own handwriting. But my answer isn't just x equals 4. Remember, just like when we were doing the graphing solutions on Monday, our answers are a point with an x and a y. So far, all I have is x. So read step 4 to yourself. Step 4 says substitute the solution in step 3, which we just did, into either of the original equations to find the other variable. Which of the original equations do you want me to plug it into? The first one or second? First one? Okay. So the first one is 2x plus y equals 7, but now I know that x equals 4. So this, instead of 2x, I have 2 times 4 plus y equals 7. And then just solve that equation. Yeah, and it can be either of the original equations. What?
I got -1. So when I plugged it into the first equation that like the change. But then I got -1, and then I just replugged it into the original one.
So when we plug it into the, so you plugged it into the second one also and got 1?
The second equation,
No, okay, so wait, tell me again what you said.
okay, so after we change 2x plus y equals 7 to -2x plus 7, I plugged the x into that. So I had -2x times 4 plus 7, and that gives me -1. But then when I replugged it into the original, the 2x plus y equals 7, I got 1, not -1.
So I'm gonna have to see what you wrote. I'll be there in just a second to look what you wrote, because I'm not exactly sure the second part of what you said. So I'm gonna come look. But I like that you said you got -1, and that's what I got. And the very last step here, I'll be with you in just a minute to look at that. Oh, okay, all right. So the very last step, step 5, is to write it as an ordered pair. That means you're going to use parentheses and do your x comma y. So our x was 4 and our y was -1. Okay. And I want everyone to take a moment to do the next example by themselves. And then we'll come back and talk about it. And then we'll have time to finish the practice sheet. So everybody work example 2 on their own. All right, so you can solve either equation. If you solved the first equation for step 1, was it easier to solve for y or x in the first equation? Which one is easier to get by itself? In this one. Yeah, the y, right? What's easier in the second one to solve for? X. So, Matthew, are you still there in Zoom? Did you solve the first equation for y or the second equation for x? For y? Okay, I'll start like that. So I'm going to solve first equation for y. Who in class did that as well? Who in class did the first equation for y? You did? Yeah, for step 1 on example 2, I was just trying to get a feel for who did what. Did anybody in class solve the second equation for x instead? You solved the bottom for x. What did you do, Caleb? We're on example 2, step 1. You did for x. Okay. So for those of you who did the second equation for x, your work is going to look different from mine for a little bit, but as long as your math is good, we all get the same answer. Okay? So solving the first equation for y looks like this. You add 2x to both sides and get y equals 2x minus 11. And then for the second step where you substitute that into the other equation, you have to use the second one. You can't use the first one again. So I'm going to take that 2x minus 11 and plug it in for y in the second equation. And that gives me x plus 3 times parentheses 2x minus 11 equals 9. And then I do distributive property here and have x plus 6x minus 33 equals 9. Combining the x's on the left gives me 7x minus 33 equals 9. Then you add 33 to both sides, 7x equals 42. And divide by x gives you, I'm sorry, divide by 7 gives you x equals 6. And because the answer needs an x and a y, I can't stop right here. I take x equals 6 and plug it into either of the original equations. It does not matter which one you pick. Matthew, which of the original equations did you plug your x back into, the top one or the bottom one? Okay. So plugging 6 in for x on the bottom equation gives me this. 6 plus 3y equals 9, and then I subtract 6 to both sides. 3y equals 3. Dividing by 3 gives me y equals 1. And do not forget to write your final answer as an ordered pair. And there we go, we're all done.